we are moving along to online. We are going to see Robert Johnson. After Mr. Johnson, we will be hearing from Caroline Cornell, followed by Sally Daigle, and then Gabe Martinez. Is Mr. Johnson available?
I am.
Oh, excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the work that you're doing. I'm here to speak on a specific cause, and just for myself as an independent person that has been incarcerated before and has come home and been reinserted into my community. And some of this redistricting is really relevant in certain counties as prisoners are counted as people in the census, when I feel that they should be counted in the places that they came from. It's really important that most of the people in Fremont County and other counties that have high incarceration rates, that their voices are heard in the communities that they came from. The communities in which they came from and are going back to are the communities in which they were going to reintegrate and be part of their community, and those resources should be given to those communities instead of allocated as a person in a community that may not understand the needs of that person. So I'm here today to say that it's really relevant for us to understand that we all have a voice, and sometimes our voice is muted based on bad decisions or choices. But yet we shouldn't forget, because sooner or later they're going to be re-entering into our society, and we need to make sure that the resources are given to them for them to be successful, for them to have someone who understands the trouble or the things that they might go through in their community that might be very different than the community that they're being counted against. So I would just ask this group of commissioners to think about that as we move forward in the redistricting process, and to understand that, you know, it's really important to give a voice to people that don't have a voice, and to make sure that they have the resources to be successful when they re-enter into our society. And that's just what I wanted to add, and I appreciate the work that you're doing, and I hope that is considered in the process of what we're discussing today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments, Mr. Johnson. We have a follow-up question. Commissioner Wilkes?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. This is actually really important to us. We haven't made a decision on our, I think both teams haven't decided yet about that, but I'm not sure. I know that with the commissioners on the congressional, we haven't made a decision yet. And we have, in this process, heard from people out in the rural areas already. So thank you so much for being willing to come forward as an incarcerated individual and giving us that different point of view that we haven't gotten before. And it is very important to us to hear these things. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity.
Thank you. Go ahead, Blanca.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Mr. Johnson, thank you very much. I also back up what Commissioner Wilkes said. We haven't had an opportunity to speak to somebody who actually has been incarcerated before, and your testimony today will probably be quite helpful to us, because both commissions are still deliberating and trying to reach a decision on this. I just wanted to just ask briefly, if I could. You may have mentioned it, but I didn't hear it in your testimony. Before you were incarcerated, did you return to the same community after you were incarcerated?
Yes, ma'am, I did. I returned back to Denver County, and, you know, we all come back in different circumstances. Some of us come back in circumstances that are definitely more settled and have less challenges, and some of us come back in circumstances that have more challenges based on housing and challenges and how we grew up or where we grew up. And so I think it's really important to understand the difference. And so if we are allotting people to count it in the county that they don't understand the challenges that someone in Denver might have compared to somebody that's in La Junta or something of that nature, or Trinidad, it's a very different problem. And I'm not saying that, of course, anybody coming from incarceration to freedom is going to have some sort of problems, but we need to make sure that we're giving the resources to people that are re-entering in their community to have the people that understand the challenges that they've been through. My challenges in Denver are very different than someone's challenges in Trinidad. That's just the fact of the matter. And so it's really important to make sure that when I came back to Denver, I was in a different situation than most people, and that's a blessing. But it is important for us to understand that we need to put people in the best possible position to be successful.
Thank you very much, Ms. Johnson, and thank you for the courage to come forward. I think it'll be helpful for us. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. We have a stack starting. Currently, up next is Commissioner Amber McReynolds. We are then going to go to Commissioner John Buckley, and then we will do Commissioner Shepard-Macklin, and we'll wrap with Commissioner Tafoya, and that's the end of the stack. Commissioner McReynolds?
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Johnson, thank you for sharing your perspective. This has been a big discussion for us, and I'm really grateful that you have provided your feedback. One other question I have for you, and I might have just missed this in your comments, but so you're back in the community you came from. Was your family, they remained in Denver or where you came from, kind of while you were incarcerated? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. I have a son and very, very active in his life, and that did not change through my incarceration. And when I came home, I came back to my family and other people in the community that supported me so tremendously, that my transition was very helpful from the community. They've really inspired me to be better every day, and my family, of course. And so that's absolutely true. I came back to the community in which I was sentenced from.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. On to Commissioner Buckley.
Mr. Johnson, I have a family member. And I have a question for you.
I'm losing you. I can't hear you very well.
Do you believe, first of all, how many, it's a two-part question. In your experience in that community, because I know you guys talk, in that community, how many guys, probably guys, how many guys would you estimate go back to their original place where they came from?
I would say 90. Okay, sorry about that. Excuse me.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Anecdotally, I understand you can't give me exact numbers.
I would say 90 to 95%. I mean, it's astronomical. The other people that decide to parole would parole out of state to a different family member, but 90 to 95% of the time we're coming back to the community in which we fell from. And that's because that's where we have our resources and our family and our community structure and the people that are going to allow us to be successful. Our community support, as we call it these days.
I want to praise you for your courage. We've had a lot of activists, sorry, I'm going to use that word, who believe passionately in this cause, but frankly, you have credibility with me. Thank you for speaking.
Thank you kindly.
Thank you. We will move on to Commissioner Shepard-Macklin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Mr. Johnson, for being willing to share your voice with the Commissioner. I think the fact that you're getting so many questions from us highlights the fact that this is very
Ms. Macklin, we are unable to hear you.
Is that better?
Yes, ma'am. That's perfect.
Sorry about that. I wanted to thank you for sharing your voice and your lived experience with us this evening. The fact that you're getting so many questions from us highlights the fact that this is an area of importance to the Commission, and we have many issues to sort out around this. I'm wondering if you're comfortable speaking to this. I would be curious to know, upon returning to your home community, the process and time for re-registering to vote and be re-engaged in the political process? If you don't mind speaking to that, if you're not comfortable speaking to that.
No, that's a fantastic question. October 28th, I was released and I was able to vote in the election for presidential election, no issue. I walked into the place that I voted the previous elections and everything was up in order and I voted comfortably. Everybody was kind to me. No one knew my story and I was able to feel wonderful. A matter of fact, on my laptop right here, I'm just going to show you, is my voting sticker in 2020. And so it's a reminder that through it all, we are still human and we make mistakes and we have to learn and grow from that mistake, but we need to come home and participate and be a part of the dialogue and the tough conversations. And it's shameful. It's embarrassing what I went through. I have to own that for the rest of my life, but it's also good to be a part of the community. This is my community too, and I have the choice to make it better, or I can make it worse. And so I choose to make it better and to be out here and do the things that everybody else gets to do, and I'm thankful for that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We will wrap with Commissioner Tafoya.
Excuse me. Just have Commissioner Shelty.
Commissioner Tafoya, we can't hear you.
No, that's fine. Is that okay? Yeah. Commissioner Tafoya, Congressional District 1. Thank you for your testimony. I have a specific question, and we've had, if you've listened to some of the discussions we've had since March, since we were convened, this has been a topic, as others have noted. And some of the arguments that we've heard are that once the individual is incarcerated, that there's a whole infrastructure, a prison infrastructure in different parts of the state, which, as we know today, we know where those locations are. They're predominantly in southern Colorado, Fremont County, Crowley County, Chaffee County, and a few other locations across the state. There are some facilities in Denver and around the country as well. So the question, though, was that there is a community that serves those institutions outside of the individuals who are incarcerated. And that's an argument that is used to not ask what you are, or to not do what you are asking this commission to do, which is reallocate the incarcerated individuals into the districts from which they came. So I'm just interested in your thoughts as to how the community in which you might have been incarcerated, or just generally speaking, you speak generally, you don't have to tell us where you were incarcerated, but how do you feel that being quote-unquote part of that community serves the interest, your interest of going back to a community, reintegrating, as it seems that you're doing so successfully, and make sure that you're part of a community once you've served your debt to society?
That's a great question. I was in Canyon City, and as an African-American man in Canyon City, there's not very many African-Americans or many people that work there that look like me. Number one, that doesn't mean we didn't coexist, we didn't get along. That wasn't the issue. The issue is people didn't look like me. And so their challenges were different. And in Canyon City, it's rural, and in Denver, it's very urban, as we all know. And so, I think it's kind of unfair that these people are incarcerated and put in a place that they have no decision on where they're going, and then yet they're counted in that census as, hey, listen, you're part of this community when you have nothing in common with us, with that community. And it's just unfair. And as well as you said, infrastructure, you can be transferred without your control to another one of those community and also change the census. And so I think that if you don't have the opportunity to vote while you're in prison, you don't have a voice, then how can you literally be counted against something? That doesn't seem fair. It doesn't seem that that's the way it should go. If you are going to count me, then I should have a voice in voting and in things that are coming about. And that just isn't the way it is. And so that's why I'm here today. I don't think that, I want to say this, I don't think that people in those counties were malicious or different toward me. They just have different, they're coming to a different lifestyle and a different thing. They were good people. There were good people everywhere.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know I said we would be ending, but this topic is of great interest to us, and if you're willing to take a few more questions, Mr. Johnson, and we have a few more. Commissioner Schell, followed by Commissioner Moore.
Thank you very much for being here tonight, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you.
I am interested in your opinion on the practicalities of reallocating the prisoners. For instance, if a prisoner is serving a 12-year sentence, do we not reallocate them back to their homes since they're not going to be there in that 10 years? If they're serving a 5-year sentence, do we put half of them in their home district and leave half of them in the prison district? There's just a myriad of questions, but I'll just leave it at that one and ask for your thoughts on that. Thank you.
That's a good question as well. That's a difficult question. I think the right answer is this. We come from communities, and the communities that we come from are where our children go to school and where our families live and pay taxes and do all the things that families do. Some people have this idea that when you go to prison that your family doesn't go with you, and that's often the case. That's true. But most of the time, your family does go with you. And in the community where your family is attending school for 5 years, 10 years, or whatever that amount of time may be, you're still active in that community, going to church or religious, whatever your religious background may be, school, playing sporting events, right? We play our soccer games near our homes. All those things are relevant, and those family members are contributing to us while we're in prison. So everything flows back through that family and where their residence is. And so it's not so cut and dry that, 12 years you're going to be in this county or that county. Well, mind you that throughout that 12-year process, if you're doing the right thing, you're progressing through the system, and you can end up in a lot of different places. So now are we going to count this person in 5 different counties and 10 different counties or whatever county we're going into? So I think that it's very relevant that we all have a home address that we write to, or people that we are joined to that are active people in our community. And so I think it's really relevant for them to have that voice on, hey, this is where I'm going. I mean, even if you look at El Paso County is really diverse, and a lot of people in prison come from Arapahoe, Denver, and El Paso County. And so, that's where they're 99% have to go through the halfway house to get back out, or do the things that they have to get back out to. And so in answering your question quickly, when you come back into the community, 9 times out of 10, you go to the community in which you fell in, or where you have community support in order to put in for the halfway house. So again, that community in which you came from is going to be your community in which you're active into or re-entering into.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Moore?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I'll try to be quick. Mr. Johnson, thank you so much for your testimony.
Thank you.
As you can see by the interest, there's been a lot of discussion. I am not on the fence over this. I strongly believe that there should be representation once you've paid your dues to society. One of the arguments that we've heard, as you may know, we have not gotten the final census data. We're still waiting on the block level data. One of the arguments we heard is because of schedule and time, that it may take too much time to be able to reallocate prisoners. Do you believe that it's worthwhile taking that time?
I understand your question. When you say reallocate, do you mean reallocate the timing to reorganize the district?
So there's a process that has to happen where the nonpartisan staff has to remove those prisoners or former prisoners from their prison location and then reallocate them back to their home location. That process takes time.
I don't think it takes that much time. It takes relevant, no more than 90 days, 60 days, right? So once you get the okay from the parole board and all those things start happening, dates start moving, you're home in 60 to 90 days, maybe, because that's what the statutes say, that you have that amount of time. So I don't think that it takes that much time to reallocate someone back to their home. Absolutely not. By statute, once you're approved to go home or to community corrections, you're normally gone within 3 to 4 months. So, no, I don't think it takes that long to reallocate. If I'm understanding your question correctly.
You are. And thank you very much for your testimony. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time today, Mr. Johnson. As you can tell, we had a lot of follow-up questions, so your testimony offered some much-needed perspective, and we appreciate your time. Thank you for taking the time today.
And thank you for everybody for taking the time to listen. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.